It's March 14th, 2023, and you know why you're here, so let's kick this off right and introduce the players. Hey, I'm Jarasar, a PvP Padawan.
Hey, I'm Treesap Jake, and I'm an Elemental Shaman enthusiast. And today with us, we have Claywind, formerly known as Shael, a rank 1 Windwalker monk and other classes, and absolutely loves all aspects of Windwalker. I think you've done PvE as well, Mythic Plus. So that's awesome. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
I've been playing World of Warcraft for way too long. I started in mid-vanilla and have been playing PvP competitively since late Wrath, achieving more than 16 Gladiator titles and 4 rank 1s. As soon as MOP came out, I fell in love with Windwalker and have played it pretty consistently since. Like you said, I do enjoy other aspects of the game too. I've got multiple cutting edges as Windwalker, as well as 2 Mythic Plus rank 1 titles. So yeah, definitely a big fan of the spec.
Yeah, that's saying something. I mean, I don't know. I think you have to really love something to do PvE on it.
Do you know how many times I hear that? Way
Yeah.
more than you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure.
think it's amazing though. I think that's actually that truly shows a well-rounded player, somebody who's playing the spec not just in one genre, just in PvP or just in PvE, but taking it to both sides and
100%.
really pushing the spec to its limits on all avenues in the game.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I feel like it keeps it fresh for me, really. You know, at the
Oh
end of
yeah.
the day, I find doing the same content. I stuck to PvP religiously from Wrath, basically all the way through WoDs, and then I started introducing PvE a little bit into the game just to keep things a little bit fresh. After you've been playing for as long as I have, and I'm sure yourselves too, you understand that it can get a bit tedious to log on and do the same thing day in and day out.
Yep.
And I definitely think it helps with class experience too, getting used to all aspects of a game and understanding its different play styles and interactions between talents and things like that. Definitely,
yeah.
like you said, promotes well-rounded gameplay.
I'm just kind of curious. So, I mean, obviously, you said you've been starting since Wrath, but monks didn't come in till MOP. What was the thing you were playing before
Yeah,
you found your love into monk?
prior to that, believe it or not, I played Holy Paladin and Warrior, both of which
Really?
went very well together throughout the entirety of Wrath, and I played both of those. Yep, my first rank one was actually as a Warrior.
That's good.
And that
Cool.
was season 7, Relentless. I
Nice.
did. I'm gonna put my hands up now, and for those that remember battle groups, I did move to a very, very, very bad battle group at Backwater PG to get that rank 1. Not my proudest moment, but it is what it is.
You got to respect the hustle. You got to respect the hustle. You got to grind it
Yeah.
out. Sometimes it requires doing that.
I basically have always played on like Stormscale or Ravencrest, which is Cyclone BG, or was Cyclone BG, should I say, which was known to be the hardest BG in Europe at the time, and was dominated by players like Hydra, Raikou, Calamist back in the day as well, Merlot, a bunch of many big names came from Cyclone. So unfortunately, I had to do what I had to do to achieve what I wanted to achieve at the time. But that's no longer an issue anymore.
It's all good. I feel that that happens a few times, especially back when there was the whole battleground or battle group thing where people would move. I think isn't it the reason why they moved in with the have to get the 50 wins? Because there's people that would faction change just to like try to get to the better faction.
Yeah, in Legion there were people that were migrating to like between Horde and Alliance, basically because the cutoffs were different, obviously, and there were people exploiting that. I think there was a point in Legion where it was even something massive, like 170 rating lower in one of the seasons. Don't quote me on which one it is because I can't quite remember. Where Horde was that much further behind because generally Alliance is dominated for PvP through most expansions. I think it's a little bit more even now, but human ratio was always absolutely crazy when you could play with double PvE trinkets, for example, and still have your trinket with every man for himself, which I now is called Will to Survive, I believe.
Yep. It's interesting how that's interesting. You kind of look back and see how they've changed, made these little changes, but I think it makes the game better. And sorry, one last question. I was wondering, Windwalker for Monk. Have you only played Windwalker, or have you dabbled in the Brewmaster and the Mistweaver side?
Oh, I am by far the worst Mistweaver you've ever seen. So please, let's not even ask me a single question on that. Brewmaster only when I've been absolutely forced to, and that would be for tanking keys sometimes. And even then, I am. Yeah, let's call myself a very, very budget standard player on that. Windwalker, absolutely comfortable. The other two, sure. I understand the class mechanically on all aspects, but performance wise, I wouldn't rate myself too well. In fact, I wouldn't play with myself. Let's put it that way. No pun intended there, by the way, listeners. No pun intended.
So actually, I've got a question.
Phrasing.
I've got a question. Speaking of small little changes, Jerusol, what happened to your WoW esports aficionado?
I went off of memory. I wasn't looking at the show notes.
Muscle memory came out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you ever done that where there's been an ability change or you change talents and all of a sudden you push the button and the wrong thing happens? It's
Oh, more times than you know.
right. It's all about muscle
I've
memory.
never
More
done
times
that.
than you know.
Never done it. Never done it. I'm actually I don't know. My memory works, so I remember what I've changed, and it seems I don't know. It just seems to be fixed. So,
Muscle memory in this game is a massive thing. Like I try to do that when I'm playing other classes. I try to match the ability as best as possible. For example, like I would have my Rising Sun kick the same as I would on like Eviscerate on a rogue, and Tiger Palm is the same I would as like a Backstab or anything like a generator. I always have my kick on the same bind. I always have a movement ability on the same bind. Obviously, Trinket's always on the same bind. Slow's always on the same bind. I find it a lot easier to adjust the classes that way if you keep that same level of bind synergy. But it surprises me how few players actually do that. And I find it a lot easier to adapt to different classes when you do, just think about it as everything's doing the same thing, but the animation's slightly different.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
This
I
doesn't
do the
apply
same.
to everything, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And I know it's a lot of people do, but like I said, it's and multi-classing has definitely become way more essential nowadays. Like if we were to look at the AWC, for example, all of these top tier players are so good, not just at one class like they used to be. Like people used to be, a dedicated one trick. Nowadays, you have to be able to play several classes at a high level if you want to remain competitive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think, I mean, for people like Snuts is the person that comes to mind, having played so many different classes, all like
Perfect example.
since whenever, really, since forever. So I think it's good. Also, I mean, nowadays you can get an ult so quickly. It's so much more fun. I think.
Yeah, it's a lot less tedious to gear as well, which is it's certainly especially in Dragonflight, I find that's been one of the better changes. The gearing system it's fast. It is very fast, and getting your honor set is incredibly fast as well.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I'm enjoying the most about Dragonflight is the fact that with all the problems that we do have as PvPers, the only problem we have is balancing, and that's it. I think genuinely, there's not much else really that you can really kind of like think of. Like, obviously, there's the sort of lack of people in threes and twos in comparison to Solo Shuffle. But in terms of our actual like PvP related problems, it's literally just balancing. We have no issues with gearing like we did and other bits and pieces like that. Like that, I'm so thankful for that.
Yes, and you brought up a very interesting point there. Since the introduction of Solo Shuffle, that is one thing I have noticed. The threes ladder and twos to an extent, but the threes ladder has moved significantly slower, and the inflation on it is incredibly low in comparison. I mean, you can see people who are like 3.4 plus in Solo Shuffle. Yet, for example, if we were to talk about Windwalkers, there are literally only 19 Windwalkers above Glad Cutoff right now in EU and 21 in US, which is remarkably low in comparison. But yet, if you were to go into Solo Shuffle, I think there's about 60 or 70 Windwalkers above 3k as it is.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting change to see how that's happened. But with Solo Shuffle being new and exciting, I'm assuming it's probably the hype and not just that. It's convenient. You don't need to wait for your partners or whatever. You can just kind of log on and play.
I think that's exactly what it is. I think the other, since you can only queue for solo or queue for twos and threes, that also it limits the prize pool or the player pool because you're talking about all the same players, right? The people that are queuing for Solo Shuffle are the same ones that would be queuing for threes or twos, and like you said, it's all about convenience. So if you're getting the same rewards, and all you have to do is just queue up and sit in queue until it pops, and you have way more people to play against and play with, then why not do solo? But yeah,
exactly. I mean, Solo Shuffle's definitely a hit, but it certainly also has its problems. If that's something you want to dive into, I've definitely got my thoughts on that. We all know, for example, if you're not playing a healer, Solo Shuffle queues are incredibly long. Not to mention, obviously, it's it's the first season for it, so you can't blame
Yeah.
Blizzard on this one. But the matchmaking system for it and the point gain and losses sometimes don't make sense. Like I have had
Yeah.
solo shuffles where I have won 5 rounds, lost one, and lost rating, and I'm
Well,
like, how on earth is this even
clearly you were supposed
possible?
to win for 6. Sheesh,
Well,
Shael.
you think so? I'm sorry for not being perfect.
How
Yeah.
dare
Must be me.
It's-
But I'm glad they added a penalty system because I'm not sure if you guys remember, but at the start
oh
of
yeah.
Dragonflight, people would just they would lose a couple rounds and leave, and then you'd sit
Yeah.
another half an hour to have someone lose the first round and then leave, and it was
Yeah.
just so tedious. In fact, I found it extremely off-putting. It's definitely better now, but like I said, it still has its teething problems. But hey, it's early days. I think Solo Shuffle is actually going to be a big hit for the game. It's something the players have been asking for a long time. I mean, we've all seen the AWC streams where people are spamming in the YouTube live stream when solo queue, and stuff like that. So
Oh
we
yeah.
finally got what we wanted, and now people are complaining about it. But it's hard to please everyone, and the WoW community is notoriously hard to please.
That's true.
And
That's so
I
true.
that
think.
brings me to another point. When you
Oh.
mentioned class balancing, this is an extremely hard game to tune because I do feel sorry for the Blizzard devs, and I'm sure I'm going to get some hate for saying this because they have to balance the game around so many different things. So you've got
Yeah.
your casual players who obviously just like to do their world quests or whatever. You've got your hardcore PvE players you've got to balance around. You've got Mythic Plus to balance around, and of course you've got PvP to balance around. And there are some classes that absolutely excel in PvE that are really, really, really far behind in PvP right now. But yeah, if you were to look at them in a raid environment, you'd be like, how is this guy doing so much damage? And then you see them in an arena and setting, and you're like, wow, this is like the weakest spec in the game by far. So it is definitely difficult. But
Yeah.
at least Blizzard, since Dragonflight, I mean, the fact that we even get 2 micro patches in between major patches is a big thing. I mean, they are definitely actively trying to improve the way they handle these sort of situations. So, big thumbs up for me so far. I mean, I've been enjoying Dragonflight. Like I said, I might have my few peeves, but it's certainly been great so far. What about yourselves?
Uh.
Oh,
Okay.
it's aggressive.
Go on, do tell.
uh,
Well,
go
who goes
ahead.
first?
No, you go. You go, Jake. You go, Jake.
Okay, well, I mean, I've had actually, to be honest, I've really enjoyed Dragonflight so far. On the subject of balancing, I think there are. I mean, I think personally, Solo Shuffle brings the worst out of you in the same way that League always did that as well. I think League does that. Like a lot of these games where Solo Shuffle, you're not working as a team, you're working by yourself, and how you work by yourself is affected by how your teammates go. So if they do badly, it affects you. And sometimes people learn how to do better after a couple of games, and they're not on your team, and therefore they start winning, even though they've just been
And they
losing.
suddenly start performing the way they should in the first round. I have noticed this too.
Yeah,
That's the
it's
problem with Solo
not good.
Shuffle. It's hard to communicate. No one wants to type mid arena, because that's incredibly impractical. But it is a dice roll when you queue for Solo Shuffle. Like
It
I've
is.
queued with some people, and they've been absolutely phenomenal players. Then the rounds have swapped, and it's just been. It feels like no matter how hard I try, there's only so much you can do. I mean, you can't be expected to carry. Everyone needs to pull their weight to an extent. And
Yeah.
another thing I'd like to bring up about Solo Shuffle is the toxicity. Wow. I was saying this to Jerusal before. I have had a string of insults sent to me that I did not even know was possible to come up with that many swear words in one sentence. It is unbelievable.
It is. It
People
is
get
scary, and that's
very
what I
angry.
mean. That's what I mean. Think that's the sort of thing that comes from this because you just people get really angry and just say some horrible things to you. Like nobody, like I mean, it was bad before, but like it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I
Um,
I don't remember it ever being this bad, to be
yeah,
honest with you.
exactly.
This is next level. I mean, Blizzard keep updating their social contracts to try and make it, a little bit more friendly, but they can't keep on top of all of it. I mean,
No.
I've got multiple people on my friends list who have been permanently banned or at least long-term bans for being extremely abusive in solo shuffle, which hey, I mean, at the end of the day, that's their own fault. If you don't have
Yep.
something nice to say, it's probably better to say nothing.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
people
Exactly.
can't seem to help themselves, and PvPers are notorious for being a little bit hot-headed, should I say, to say the least.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, and I know you're 100% correct, and I think this is the problem that we face, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon, other than them just banning the people that are like that, and that's just how it's going to be. And I think regarding going back to balancing, sorry, one of the things I wanted to say about it was that I think actually they can do it. Like I've seen them do it, and I talk about this a lot on Twitter, and a lot I just talk about it in general. Is that I've seen them do it where they've made PvE changes and they said this does not affect PvP, and I think they need to start doing that more. They need to start adding that extra bit for PvP and for PvE. So like let's say something is really strong in PvE and they want to nerf it. Okay, that nerf happens in PvE, doesn't happen in PvP. This class remains the same because it's fine.
Exactly. What 100%. I agree with that completely. But the best way for that to happen is we do need a lot more PvPers to start giving more constructive feedback. And I mean, they offered a community council. It'd be nice to see more top players from the PvP side go on there to give their 2 cents, because we all know the general WoW forums. People complain about everything. Like all you see is
Yeah.
DH2 OP must nerf, blah 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 blah. I mean, sure, DH is strong or whatever, but it's the WoW forums. An interesting read to say the least. Just like the Wowhead comments, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, and I think
But no,
actually, if you think about Demon Hunter as well, actually, they're in a good. I think they're in the perfectly good place right now. Like I think everything is okay. It's not like they feel balanced to me. Like they still do a load of damage and it's consistent, but they feel like balanced in the sense that like that is what they do, but they're not as obscene and like crazy as they have been previously. And I think with balancing, they just need to adjust things by 3 to 5%. They don't need to do anything by 20% or 30%. That swings it way too much. Just do 3%, 5%, and then frequent every couple of weeks.
That's all they do, though. That's all they've been doing is just a few percent
hit
here.
the nail on the head. The micro adjustments are definitely much better. Like I'm gonna now reflect on Windwalker, for example. Like we all know at the start of Dragonflight, Strike of the Windlord was absolutely insane, but a 30% nerf on that was absolutely crazy, followed by a Thunderfist nerf shortly after as well. Like these are absolutely massive, massive, massive changes. And sure, I do, to be fair, and a lot of Windwalkers are going to hate me for saying this, so I apologize in advance. I do feel that was justified because I was literally just one-shotting people before a sweep even ended at the start of Dragonflight. But for example, to make up for that, it would be nice to see either maybe a bit more defensive or a little bit more sustained, because I would like to be able to play where I could have the option to actually, stay in and keep up some consistent pressure. Because at the moment, Windwalker is, well, largely unchanged in the fact that you go and then you play to survive until your next go and repeat the process from there. And that's the win condition. But yes, that is how the class plays. But like I said, it would be nice to see some small playstyle changes rather than just relying on killing someone in the sweep, and that's the end of it.
Guys, I feel like we just transitioned from the intro all the way into the subject analysis without even doing bumpers.
Apologies.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's
good. Once I get on a roll, I can't stop myself.
Good. It's good. It's a good conversation.
That's for
sure. Yeah. Joe Rogan, watch out. Technically PvP coming up.
The JRE podcast. Hey, maybe we'll all be on there one day. We'll say hello to my boy Joe.
We need to get a chat GPT version of this where Joe Rogan's like doing the interview and just saying like, I defer to the better like podcast guys. Like, let's just get like technically PvP best WoW PvP podcast ever. And it's like, great, yeah, thanks, Joe.
I'll slip him a DM on Instagram and see what happens. I can't feel he's going to get back to me, but hey, it's got to be worth a shot, right? Yeah, you never know. Maybe he plays himself.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you miss all the shots you don't take, so.
Well, exactly.
That's true. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Joe has tried it. I think it's been said that almost, with the number of players that have gone through World of Warcraft, even through its height to today, it's almost said that either a person knows of or has played at least a little bit of World of Warcraft. So.
Oh yeah, I remember back in the day, Cameron Diaz played a female gnome rogue. Vin Diesel played as well. Like these are all Mila Kunis played as well. There's been a lot of celebrities, and I'm sure there's loads more incognito.
Oh yeah,
as well. But I mean, you would think as a celebrity, it's probably quite ideal because in their downtime, in between recording movies and doing all their their press duties and whatnot, when they're just looking for some peace in their own home, this is a perfect game to have a little breakaway and be someone else for once and be treated like a normal human being. Well, unless they play solo shuffle, then they probably won't be treated like a normal human being.
Mila Kunis is just in solo shuffle getting abused by some really angry rogue player.
Hold on. No, she she would probably be one of the ones that would be able to come up with that creative string of words that Shael never heard. Or,
She's probably the one that did it to me, isn't it?
Yeah.
Called me all these names under the sun, you know?
Let's be honest. I feel that she could hold her own quite well.
I should imagine so.
Well, how about this? Let's pull it back for a sec. I kind of actually want to do this need, greed, and pass. I don't think we need to, but I want to do it anyways because it was my turn, and by gum, I sat on this for like 3 hours trying to figure out a good one. So why don't we do that, and then we'll move into the rest of the podcast.
Sure thing.
This likely won't be a clean fight, so keep your distance, eh?
All right. So as always, need, greed, and pass. I'm going to create the stereo with 3 options. You guys need to individually pick the one you'll need, pick the one you'll greed, and pick which one you'll pass on. I want to remind everybody listening, either live or at home, you can also play along. So type in chat right now as we go through this. And if you are listening at home, hop on over to the Discord server, and there'll be a thread over there where you can tell us what your thoughts are. But in the meantime, so tonight's need, greed, and pass, this one's a fun one. So I was thinking about some of the stuff that's coming up in 10.0.7 and 10.1 with the new gear coming down and the talks about, PvE tier gear is going to get more powerful in 10.1 and some of these things coming around. And again, so I see it about how that causes balancing issues, how previously PvE items have caused balancing issues, specifically trinkets and tier sets, etc. So this is the question. You get to need, you get to greed, or you get to pass. So first option is allow for these bonuses to work in any aspect of the game. So PvE, PvP, world PvP, whatever. If you get a trinket off of Mythic Boss, you can run into an arena and use it. If you have like you can even say that this one includes PvP tier sets, where let's say you have a PvP tier set that has a really cool bonus, let that work in PvE. So it goes both ways. Option 2 is segregate. So only have PvE items. So PvE tier sets and all that only works in PvE. Only have PvP items, and those only work in PvP, and neither shall the two ever mix. And then for PvP, don't allow any of these bonuses to work. None of the tier sets, none of the trinkets, none of these specialty stones, nothing. All it is just stats. And obviously you still have the PvP trinkets where you have the medallion and the bonus the bonus stats for a few seconds or whatever, because those are strictly for PvP. But that's it. Just otherwise, the rest of everything else, all the gear is just stats. So again, all bonuses work everywhere. Doesn't matter. Segregation. So PvP has its own stuff. PvE has its own stuff. And then the third one is only have stats in PvP. Actually, Jake, I'm going to throw it to you first. What are your options? What do you think?
So it's basically either everything works in everything, they're the split, and then only PvP has stuff.
Yeah,
that's a hard one. So like basically PvE has nothing. You have to do PvP to get PvE to get anything. If I'm understanding it correctly.
Sorry, I think your internet just like went because you went a little robot-y. Yeah, try that again.
So, if I'm understanding it correctly, the first option is everything works in everything. So, PvP tier and everything like that from PvP works in PvE, and PvE tier works in PvP. The second one is the two of them are split, so they have their own separate realms of working.
Yeah.
And then the last one is only PvP has stuff.
Yeah. So, you have your honor gear, your conquest gear. You have your trinkets, the PvP trinkets. They'll work in PvP. Like, and again, like that's just like the bonus health or the bonus stat. And then otherwise, though, yeah, if you have, let's say, some PvE gear, none of that stuff is going to work in PvP. It's only going to be stats. And I guess really then then if they wanted to, they could, they just have medallion in that. But I mean, they could just obliterate almost everything else and just have it all balanced around stats. Everything's just going to be a stat weight.
Just as in there is no tier, no nothing. It's only just stats. Okay,
Yep.
got it. Understood. Right. All right. So I'm going to say, this is difficult. I think personally, PvP would be a lot easier and better for them to balance if it was just the stats and they built it all around the playstyle of each spec and class. So, for example, however the tier pieces are working with one another, like look at assassination 4-piece versus everything else. That, an example, just boosted the damage insane amounts. Imagine none of that existed. Like, imagine early Dragonflight when everyone was having so much fun.
Yep.
And with the balancing that we've got now, and none of this tier nonsense, I think actually it would be in a really good place. And I think we'd actually be having a lot more fun, because instead of it being kind of like, I feel like I'm on the back foot versus this class, which just feels suddenly roided for no reason, or the spec because of this feature, and mine doesn't really play up to it. I think, yeah, so I'm going to need that one. PvP only stats. I'm going to need that one. My second best option would be, I'm going to greed the segregated, the kind of split between the two. So I think that would, for me, I'd be fine with that, sort of the split between them, like a real dedicated split between PvP and PvE, like we talked about before. And then I'm going to pass on everything everywhere, because that is just, we've had that before and it's just awful.
All right.
Although saying that, obviously people still play TPC and Wrath era where things are like that a little bit, but I don't know. I think I would prefer something. I mean, with the balancing that we've got nowadays, I think I'd like to keep that away.
Okay. Shael.
Okay, I might have some very, very unpopular. I'm about to lose a lot of fans, but very few that I may have anyway.
All 5
Right. Okay, here we go. Unpopular opinion incoming. I'm going to need on segregation. I'm going to greed on, no holds barred, everything everywhere, and I'm going to pass on just PvP related stats solely because I like the fact that there is flavor. Yes, I agree with some of the tier sets and things like that. The balancing is absolutely way off, but I remember in WODs, because if you guys remember, primarily it was literally only PvP gear. I found it got a little bit stale for me personally after a while, and I do enjoy having something to add a bit of spice to my class. Looking forward to a new tier coming and finding out what my set bonus is going to be and how it's going to adapt my playstyle. For me, it allows more intuitive gameplay. Now, I'm probably biased because, like I said, obviously also PvEing as well. That's for me that would be a pretty big benefit. But that's what I'm going to go for that one. I do enjoy flavor. I do enjoy new seasons, new things, new effects from the tier set bonuses. I also do enjoy, ridiculously OP trinkets and stuff like that. I'm ashamed to admit it, but bring back Deathbringers will. Cough, cough. Anyway.
I don't disagree with you. I think some of that stuff is great flavor. I'm just gonna check in and see if Big has any options that he'd like to throw in.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I feel like I'm like on a sitcom. I just walked into the scene,
Whoa, how
But
long were you there for?
I've been muted this whole time. Oh my god, Jesus.
Oh.
But I'm kind of torn on this because I see what Shael was saying, that having a bit of flavor is really fun, and I think like some of the tier sets aren't super toxic. I mean, maybe I'm just biased, but like I definitely think there are some like outliers when it comes to tier, and there's obviously classes that benefit way more than others, and I think that's kind of an inherent problem. But I do like some of the tier set bonuses. I think they provide something interesting. I think in the current implementation with the creation catalyst, or whatever it's called now, it's not called the creation catalyst.
Revival
The
Catalyst. Same
revival
thing. Same thing.
catalyst,
Same
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had this experience. I just leveled an alt, and it's time gated, and that's like really frustrating to go 4 weeks. Depending on what your luck is in the vault. without having tier. It feels really bad right now. So I think that's like an inherent problem. Because of that, it's hard for me to say what I would need. I kind of like the segregated idea. Like if maybe there could be some PvP specific set bonuses that only worked in PvP, that would be interesting. And then I'm actually going to greed on the PvP only stats because I do think there is something nice about like an expansion like Legion where everything was only just like stats. It was like again, it was not very like it made gearing very uninteresting, but at the same time, it kind of made the process of getting ready for PvP very simple. Like you level a character and you're basically ready to go. And I see the benefit of both systems if they could somehow be merged somehow. I think that'd be ideal. But yeah, need unsegregated, greed on PvP only stats, and pass on all bonuses everywhere.
All right. So you think you had an unpopular opinion. I'm gonna have even more unpopular. I'm gonna need all bonuses everywhere. Let it work everywhere, but with the understanding that there is, PvP gear with some PvP specific, abilities or whatever tier sets, and let that work in PvE. And same with some of the PvE stuff or all the PvE stuff. Like, just let's do it. Let's have some fun. Let's go back to what TBC was. Why not?
Spice it up. Oh, TBC, SLSL Dream State Druid, please.
Yeah!
Not again. I'm done with those days.
Let's do it. So I do that. I'm going to greed on segregated, and I'm going to pass on the only stats. I know that it's a dream of many because of the balancing, and then it's just skill, right? Everybody has the same stats, so then it's just skill. Maybe you tweak the stats, go a little bit heavier, go for a full mastery build, right? Or go for a full haste build or whatever you want to do. And I know that's very tempting. Like I said, like you guys said, it misses that flavor. It misses that little extra panache, right? So those are my choices.
For sure, I agree. Like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, if we had every season, because we've got how many seasons has it even been now? Like what, 30, something like that? I've lost count at this point.
Yeah.
I think if we had just one stat sheet the whole way through, like this is an old game, and I definitely do think it needs to have some flavor to keep it interesting. Otherwise, it will eventually feel stale. I do agree though with one set stat sheet, like for example in Legion, like Vig said, for example. It is definitely a lot better for promoting individual gameplay and performance, and not getting absolutely decimated by some absolutely ridiculous tier set. Like for example, let's not even talk about the Windwalker tier set right now because that's one of the ones which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, but
right.
no, I do. So different answers from everyone. Interesting.
Yeah, I like it when it's like that.
Yeah, it's the way it should be. It promotes good discussion.
Indeed. Unfortunately, we're going to kill this little bit of the discussion, and we'll move into what's the upcoming WoW PvP events.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
All right, upcoming PvP events. The AWC Gauntlet and the Grand Finals were supposed to actually happen. I think originally we were saying like the end of the month on the 30th. It actually got pulled up. I didn't even see it. They changed it. But because 10.0.7 is dropping so close, they've actually readjusted the time again. So now it's going to be the Gauntlet is on the 7th of April, with the Grand Finals being the Saturday and Sunday after that on the 8th and the 9th of April. So that's slightly moved around a little bit. I think that should give the players more than enough time to practice with the new patch. And on top of that, the MDI Grand Finals got announced, and those are happening on the 31st of March to the 2nd of April. So I'm actually pretty excited to watch that. Some of the teams they're just absolutely insane. Some of the polls are doing it, like even these top tier casters who know the game so well and really think they have an understanding of the game and these dungeons are often just blown away by the skill and the just the aptitude of these players to come up with some really insane pathings to do like 30-minute dungeons at the plus 21 level in 12 minutes. Like, just blows your mind away.
It's absolutely crazy.
Oh, it's nuts.
I mean, it's similar to AWC, really, isn't it? It kind of sets for meta. You know, I mean, when you see all these teams doing all these things, you think, "God, why didn't I think of this myself?" You know, this was such a fantastic idea. All these pulls, these skips, these routes, and so, like I said, same with AWC. Slightly different because ladder play and tournament play, as we all know, is two completely different worlds. However, you know, it does give you it does definitely change players' outlook on comps they should be running and how to deal with certain classes and specs and whatsoever. It's always nice to see the elite players of the game, for example, showcasing what they can do and their theory crafting behind what it is they're doing.
100%. I do think that the MDI should always have like that running caveat of do not try this at home, though, because you can't take these polls and go into your looking for group plus 14 Ruby life pools and try to do the same thing.
The amount of times this has happened. I've joined the key and some guys just watch the MDI. He links a route. He's like, right, I've just seen this. It's like a super low key, and it's like, you know, you're comparing like 5 Echo players to Joe Blogs that you found in your pug that you've been sitting in queue for 20 minutes. It's just not going to work, and then all of a sudden they get mad and leave because it didn't work. You know, there is a caliber difference, and people need to understand that.
Wait, it's exactly the same thing. A key is a key, right? You know. All right. One of their last event, it just got announced yesterday. I'm happy to point out that Team Liquid Guild, is running another tournament. This time it's going to be in Dragonflight, doing 3v3 arena. It's happening the 18th and the 19th of March, so it's this weekend coming up. It looks like it's going to be invitational because it didn't say anything about signups. It is happening, though, over on the PTR in 10.0.7. So this is going to be really interesting to see because this is going to really kind of be the first time we'll see before the AWC and before it actually goes live, what this is actually going to look like. Oh, I am being told it's all the top 8 teams. So apparently, Team Liquid is funding its own AWC grand finals before the grand finals. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. Well, being PTR, that's going to be, that's going to be right cracked, seeing how that looks like.
It's 100% confirmed on the PTR?
Yep, it's actually on the announcement that it's going to be on the PTR. They're doing it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. I like when a tournament's kind of weird.
Ditto. I feel bad for the Blizzard server ops team because they're going to be that's going to be the most action they're going to be seeing on the PTR. The server's probably going to lag a bunch.
Yeah, the reason I was late for this is I was planning some tier lists stuff for 10.0.7, and you know, there's a lot of red pallies are getting a significant rework. But just Paladin in general, Warlocks are getting a lot of buffs. So that's cool. I did not know that that was on the PTR. So
yeah, I don't know about you guys. I'm going to be watching this one avidly. I'm going to be really.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it will be fun.
Okay.
Like Vic said, there is a lot of changes, so people are going to have to readjust because there are some actually monumental changes even in 10.0.7, let alone 10.1.
100%. Quick question then. Round the table, which team are you going to cheer for? Assuming this is NA only.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think there's any. I was like, any EU team was who I'd be cheering for. But sadly, not.
Jeez, I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't really have a favorite this season, which is kind of I feel ashamed to say that. Like normally there's a few teams I always want to see do exceptionally well, but I just like watching WoW, to be honest. Nowadays, because just the meta so fast. These tournaments are so enjoyable because they're just so fast. Geez, is there a list of teams? Can we see a list somewhere? Because
it's probably over on the World of Warcraft esports standings. But I think you're looking at Luminosity, Golden Guardians, Team Liquid. Where's Gordy?
Golden Guardian. Never mind, Golden Guardians. I like.
Yeah, I would agree with Golden Guardians. Yeah, really? Definitely my favorite.
All right, I'm actually going to cheer on Where's Gordy.
That's a good one too.
Yeah. Flop Cubsy. Chun-Li, wealthy man? Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely S tier players to say the least.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All right. So that's it for the news for PvP events. One little thing before we actually start picking at Shael's brain about Windwalker. We have a giveaway. We're giving away 2 Viridian Phase-Hunter mounts. One we're doing through Twitter. So that one's been ongoing for a while. If you don't know, go follow Technically PvP on Twitter. This one is only for the listeners, so you have to be listening to know what to do. So I want everybody who's listening to pause the podcast right now. Well, okay, wait till you listen to the instructions, then pause the podcast. I want you to open up your email program and email technicallypvp@gmail.com. All one word, @gmail.com. Subject line, giveaway. Whatever else you want in the body. You can tell me your life story. You can tell me a funny joke. You can tell me, hey, link me your character. Show me your armory. Show off your favorite transmog. Whatever you want to do. All I really want to see is emails with the subject line giveaway. And I am going to randomly pick a winner from that. And they're also going to win the second mount. So unfortunately, this is going to be North America, South America, and Oceanics only. Sorry, guys. It's the codes that were given to me by Blizzard. But I'm giving away. So there you go. That's how you're going to do that one. So, hey, I guess if you want, it's an IRL PvP event. Because everybody's going to be playing against each other to try to win this mount. All right. That's done. Now, let's get into the subject analysis.
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
All right. Windwalker monks. Give me the goods. No, seriously. I think we were talking about this before, Shael, about how Windwalker monks, you're saying like it hasn't really changed. Like it's been basically the same gameplay for years.
Yes, setup wise, it's definitely the same. Obviously, we've gained a lot, like most classes with Dragonflight. I mean, for example, the whole talent system revamp gave us access to so many good things. Like, for example, we used to have to choose between Diffuse and Dampen Harm, and we can have both of those at the same time now, which is great. But in general, I feel it's largely unchanged. Windwalker is an extremely scripted class, so your goes are pretty much always the same. You want to incap, into sweep, do your burst. Get your cooldowns from your other team, preferably trinkets, defensives, whilst he's sitting there, healer, if this is 2s, and same in 3s as well anyway. And then basically apart from that, you're just buying time until the next go. The biggest problem with Windwalkers I see, especially in the lower bracket, is that they stay in when they've got nothing. And your kill condition is what makes the class. I mean, you can put out an absolutely obscene amount of damage in your burst window, but after that, yes, your consistent damage is okay, but the problem is you're just going to absolutely drain your healer's mana because you take so much damage. I mean, we all know that Karma is not the best defensive in the game, and a lot of the time nowadays people are even using it offensively. In fact, well, that's been the same for a while anyway. But yes, so please do go on and ask more questions.
I've heard too though that kind of Windwalkers felt maybe a bit more awkward this expansion compared to Shadowlands, because obviously in Shadowlands they were known as like the 100% like 100-0 like
Yeah.
Omega Pump God X, right?
Bam on the weak aura for the spin. Yeah, we've all heard it. We've all heard it.
And I mean, at that point, the playstyle was definitely very hit and run. Like you did your big bang, and then played very safely. But from my understanding, because there's like a little bit more consistent damage now, that there is sort of this incentive to stay in, but you can't stay in as much as you'd
Yeah,
like, right?
you,
Because you're too
you
squishy.
you can definitely stay in a bit more because, like you said, with the fact that we swapped out of playing Bone Dust Brew and pretty much everyone's playing Phalanx Stomp with the 8% damage increase and it resets constantly all the time, you can keep out constant pressure. And I'll move on to the tier set bonuses as well. As I was saying before, with Windwalker, the tier set changes everything. I mean, are you guys aware of what the 2 and 4 set bonuses are, or do you want me to run you through it quickly?
No, I don't. I don't even know.
Okay, so Fist of Fury increases. This is the 2 set. Fist of Fury increases the damage dealt by your next 2 Rising Sun kicks or Spinning Crane kicks by 30%. Obviously, that's an absolutely massive amount. So you always want to fists before your Rising Sun kick now, for example, in your go, which means you just need to pull your chi a bit better. And then the 4 set coincides with it even better. So Fist of Fury now enhances your next 3 Rising Sun kicks. And oh my god. Sorry. Fist of Fury now instead enhances your next 3 Rising Sun kicks or Spinning Crane kicks, and enhanced kicks increase the damage of your next Fist of Fury by 5%, stacking up to 3 times. So you're basically rotating between the two. So it's just flat out a damage increase on absolutely everything. So you get 15% fist damage and 30% Rising Sun kick and Spinning Crane kick damage. It's an absolutely crazy tier set, to be honest with you. Like I was very pleasantly surprised to see what it is, and then I've seen some other classes and felt very sorry for them in comparison. But yeah, so like you said, it's definitely different. It's not so much like Shadowlands, like run in gap, sweep, bone dust, get you go, and then run for a minute. You can stay in a little bit more, but unfortunately, with it being such a bursty meta, it is important still to kite and just try and force cooldowns and just play safe, play for the long game, play to win. I say long game, but you can usually win within 2 minutes. But still.
And I
Just
think, well, I was going to say that this playstyle is kind of counterintuitive to what a lot of melee typically play like, right? You have classes like warriors and DKs and demon hunters who are just like wanting to stay in the fight, play really aggressive. And then you have monks and to some degree, well, definitely sub rogues who kind of perform this very similar role in the sense that they want to be like ducking in and out of the fight, which I think makes like those sub rogue and windwalker particularly like difficult. I think for newer players because I think it is a very unintuitive play style for melee.
Yeah.
Would you say that's true? Like that
I
it's
would
kind
I
of
would say that's absolutely true. It doesn't really fit the melee playstyle. Like you said with warriors, I mean the idea of melee is to be staying in, causing consistent pressure, doing as much damage as possible. It is definitely a strange playstyle to adapt to in comparison. Like I said, rogues and monks, you hit the nail on the head when you compared it with sub rogue. Extremely, extremely similar playstyles. I mean, let's say for example, Windwalker and sub play nothing like Fury Warrior, which is just constant pressure all the time, running people down, forcing the other team to go extremely quickly, as you have to be a little bit more calculated with the setup. But at the same point, it is still I would say Monk is still one of I guess I hate for saying this. It's one of the easier classes to play in terms of when you understand how the setup works. It's incredibly effective.
very
Am
nice.
I still muted? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
I don't think I am. Okay. Shoot. I'm just kind of so. Would you say is Monk the one that's able to set up the setups, or is it more a? Because I'm thinking for like for Walking Dead, you kind of have to wait for the DK to do the grip to then do the leg sweep that then goes into your burst and that. Would you also be able to set your own things, or are you still
In
beholden
threes,
to
it's
the
a
others?
completely different ball game to twos. In fact, even in twos, for example, like I would always push, for example, if I'm playing Windwalker Resto Druid, I always want to make sure he's got a clone to cover my sweep go, for example. That way we're absolutely going to force something. And it's very much the same in threes as well. You would want your healer to CC someone. Obviously, we in-cap with target that we're going to grip into double sweep, go from there, and then rinse and repeat basically and force cooldowns that way. Setting up by yourself is once again one of the biggest issues I notice amongst which try to do everything by themselves. You need coordination with your partners. It absolutely relies on it, and it makes it leaps and bounds different. Like it's actually monumental how different it is. I mean, it's why I've struggled a few times in solo shuffle because obviously that communication isn't there. So setting up a go, you're kind of doing it by yourself. But if the only person landing the CC at the time and everyone else is kind of just running around doing their own thing, may not even force anything.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
That's
kind of curious about.
back foot. So
So in shoulder shuffle, you're pretty much held to what your teammates are able to do and read
in
into the situation.
Yeah, I was about to say in solo shuffle, the best thing to do is watch for your teammates, and when you see that they land a decent CC at that point, because Monk CC is instant and relatively easy to get off, you just have to play on it like that rather than just trying to go Rambo by yourself and force a win in the first few seconds, which is what everybody seems to try and do. But no, obviously in rated twos and threes where you've got proper communication with your partners, it's considerable amount easier.
Awesome. Um, it, so Is there like a Swifty one-shot macro? Is there like a macro you can push where you pop everything
Is
and
there
blow
a
somebody up?
Swifty one-shot macro? No, not really, so to speak. I mean, not that I play with. I mean, I personally have always bound everything individually, but I mean, you know, you'd always want to use your on-use badge, for example, with your Serenity and stuff like that.
And is Monk Mastery still the same, where you have to press different abilities?
Yes,
Is
it
that
is increase the damage. So you never want to break your mastery. And now that we've got hit combo baked into our talent tree, it's even more important yet because that's an extra 6% on top. So it is incredibly important not to break your mastery. Otherwise,
yeah?
your damage is just going to be extremely weak. And it does happen. It does happen quite a lot. Like I said, I watch a lot of Monk streams, and I see them, accidentally double Tiger Palm. And that brings me on to my next point. One of your key talents, which, as I'm sure everybody here is aware, the whole way through Shadowlands was Skyreach.
Yep.
Or it's called Kiefer Skyreach in Shadowlands, if I stand corrected there. The worst thing you can do as a monk is accidentally Tiger Palm the target you're looking to set up on prior to actually being ready to set up, because then you've got a whole minute of downtime where you've completely wasted that go, which is why it's incredibly important if you're trying to generate chi to build it off pets or just start on the other target that you're looking for, whatever, to get your chi first, because Skyreach is absolutely everything. That's what gives you that ginormous amount of damage. Without it, the damage is it's considerably weaker, and I don't even think, to be honest with you, it would force that much at all. Maybe very small defensive, maybe an astral shift at best. But certainly not a trinket.
Okay. Well, since you kind of mentioned Skyreach, which is a fairly important talent, do you want to run through some of the important talents? Like, what are the things that are out of the myriad that there are on both the left and the right? Let's maybe start on the left side. What are things that you feel are a must-have? Maybe some conditionals, and what are the, like? I guess first and foremost, I didn't see any capstones being picked in any of the research I was doing prior to this. Like, you don't even use statues in PvP.
Not a single statue. They've all got absolutely no value in PvP. PvE, on the other hand, which we're not going to get into, completely different story of your White Tiger statue. But unfortunately, Summon Black Ox statue, complete waste of time. That's no help whatsoever, because it's just going to be taunting people. White Tiger statue, it does do good damage, but it's extremely easy to move away from, and unfortunately it's tied to a 2-minute cooldown. Summon Jade Serpent statue, not too bad, but unfortunately you don't spend that much time channeling Soothing Mists. You've got points better invested elsewhere. Like, in fact, to be honest with you, the last 2 rows, I don't talent into anything of those whatsoever at any point in
It's
PvP.
mind-boggling.
Yes,
So,
the tree definitely does look a little bit weird.
wouldn't you use Ox though for like BM hunters and that? Wouldn't that help mess up their pet management by taunting pets?
It could do, but unfortunately, you would lose a lot of talents, especially on the left side of things. For example, like Close to Heart, which is basically it's a flat 8% healing increase on all allies which are within 10 yards of you, which is absolutely phenomenal. There's so many expel harm modifiers, which mean like you could expel harm healing is actually ginormous in PvP.
Really?
Like I've seen, yeah, expel harm say on such short cooldown. I've seen crits of upwards of 90k.
Holy moly!
Because you've got on the right side, you've got something called Strength of Spirit, which is Expel Harm's healing is increased by up to 100% based on your missing health. So if I'm like 30% and I hit Expel Harm, I'm getting at least 25-30% of my health back from that alone. Not to mention you're Expel Harming on cooldown anyway because it's, a chi generator.
And you probably have enough debuffs on you to expel something. So, or am I misunderstanding expel harm?
No, Expel Harm is nowadays literally just a heal and chi generator. It deals a tiny bit of damage, but it's very negligible. But like
Okay.
I said, but with all the modifiers to it, it is a seriously significant amount of healing.
Okay.
And then if you were to couple it on top of that with a reverse harm PvP talent, that once again increases its healing done by 60% and grants you an additional chi. Unfortunately, reverse harm is one of the few PvP talents you'd swap out for grapple weapon versus, well, basically any melee. Like, for example, if you can pre-grapple before a rogue kidneys, that's absolutely insane, but against, any caster cleave, if you think, or any rock cleave, for example, it's an absolutely amazing talent. Unfortunately, Alpha Tiger and Turbo Fists are pretty much set in stone. It's very rare you'll ever see those changed. It's usually the only PvP talent you would change would be expel harm for grapple weapon. There are a few other moments where I've seen people running up things, but it is so few and far between. It's almost not worth mentioning.
That's actually unfortunate, but not unheard of.
Yeah, it is unfortunate because I would like to see more use of the other talents, but it's just when the three, like I said, Alpha Tiger, Turbo Fist, and Reverse Arm are so strong, it's so hard to justify swapping for anything else.
Yeah. All right. What about the right side?
Okay, on the right side, once again, it's pretty much set in stone. At the start, I was still in Shadowlands vibes, and I was playing with Bone Dust Brew until I realized how absolutely crazy Phalanx Stomp is. That extra 8% damage on top of your go, coupled with Serenity. Like I said, you've got so many damage modifiers, and then you talk about your tier set on top of it. You can be upwards of like 60% extra damage on certain things, like Rising Sun Kick, when played properly. I don't personally think I could see us playing Bone Dust Brew anytime soon with the way things are, but we do still obviously play with Dance of Chi because once again it goes well with our tier set. So for example, like I said, it gives you a couple stacks. I could have a massive Rising Sun Kick, and if I've got a Dance of Chi proc, I'm also going to get that 30% damage on the next Spinning Crane Kick as well. Not quite Shadowlands-esque sort of damage on it, but it is still a heck of a lot of pressure. Apart from that, of course, you're always going to stick as far to the right side of the tree as possible. Strike of a Windlord, even with it being butchered down to the ground, it's still absolutely insane. Not to mention, it gives you something called Thunder Fist, which I think a lot of people probably know it now, but it's based on a cone in front of you. So, for example, if you're against a Demo Warlock, when you strike of a Windlord, if you've got your pets in the cone in front of you as well, that'll give you an extra stack of Thunder Fist. Now, bear in mind, each Thunder Fist stack for every time you auto attack adds an additional 40k damage. And I've had 9-10 stacks of Thunder Fist sometimes as well. So that's 400k damage passively for doing nothing. Absolutely crazy. Same with against like BM hunters, or even if people are stacked closely together, or in an RPG setting as well. It's absolutely massive.
Yeah.
So you press your strike at a Windlord, hit a bunch of pets, and then you white hit someone for a bunch? Is that?
Yeah, literally. So, for example, when a Demo Warlock's got his 9,000 million imps and all that good shenanigans out, if I strike with a Windlord on him, I'm going to get one stack per the targets that are in the cone in front of me. So, that, like I said, that's 9 stacks. You're looking at 40k damage per stack as well, which
But it comes off one stack at a time. It doesn't all.
No, if it came off all at once, that'd be crazy. But it does come off surprisingly quickly. So it is very important for proper use of Striker for Windlord, which is something a lot of the top monks, of course, they're utilizing it, but it's something we will be seeing people hopefully use a lot more as they're coming into it. Because at the moment, some people are striking with just one target in front of them, getting one stack of Thunder Fist, and losing an extreme amount of value. Like this is the sort of min maxing that makes a huge difference between sort of a 2200 and a 2600 monk.
It's kind of like how last expansion you'd want to like tab a bunch of targets to boost your Spinning Crane Kick damage, right?
Yes. You still spread your Mark of a Crane. I mean, we still do that now. We still play with Mark of a Crane, so you
Yeah.
do want to get as many as possible. But like I said, with Spinning Crane Kick not doing anywhere near as much damage as it did, it's not quite as relevant, but definitely still something to be considered. Like I'm always making sure I'm getting Blackout Kicks and Tiger Palms and stuff on pets as much as possible. So if I do get a nice Dance of Chi proc in my go, that's gonna be a massive amount of damage.
I feel like that was. There's some people out there probably are writing this down right now because they had no idea. And then in the meantime, there's a bunch of other monks bobbing their head going,
There's no problem with ideas, it's obvious. But you'd be surprised, like I said, there's a lot of people that don't know these sort of things, and it is important.
No, exactly.
Right, yeah, I didn't learn that. I didn't know about that Strike of the Windlord Thunder Fist interaction, but that seems pretty good. I
Yeah,
want to play
like
monk now.
like I said, based off a code in front of you, but it's crazy. The second I see a Demo Warlock, I get extremely excited because I know that he's going to take a lot of damage after his unending.
So, is the Windwalker monk the Achilles heel to the Demo Lock then?
I mean, well,
Like,
Demo Warlock is still extremely tanky as it is, but
Sure.
but yeah, for example, like I said, any pet classes like that or anything which I can feed off a couple things, it definitely helps, and it is something I absolutely take into consideration before my go. I don't just like to run in and get out my Serenity, strike a Windlord as quick as possible. Because, like I said, proper usage of it does amount to absolutely obscene damage.
Makes sense. And that's
I feel
why.
like
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, just Windwalkers just are so much fun. Like, they just sound, and having played one, and I played one in WoD actually quite a lot, and it was a lot of fun. Like, I think they're just really, really fun. I feel like Windwalker as a spec is so close to being like perfect. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just almost feels like it's just almost at that point where it could be like, this is the best class spec you could ever want to play in your life. It's really, really fun, but its pitfalls are just like, it's just almost too. It's almost kind of, because it's so close, it kind of that hurts even more that it's not at that point where it could be just totally perfect to play and really fun.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that appeals to it so much about me is, like Big mentioned before, about the mastery, for example, preventing button bashing and actually having to think about what you press, making sure your hit combos staying on 6 stacks all the time as well. And because mastery, after a verse, obviously being your next best stat, you're talking about like an extra 32% damage plus on your abilities, then the 6% hit combo on top of it. Then you've got your Serenity. Then you've got your Fail Line Stomp. When you look at all these individual damage modifiers, this is why we've all seen Windwalkers do absolutely crazy damage. But on the flip side, for those that don't take into account all the tools available in their arsenal, so to speak, you've also seen Windwalkers hit like a wet noodle. So but like you said, yeah, it's definitely an appealing class for that sense, because it definitely plays completely different to other melee, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. Are we done on the right side? I think it sounded like we stopped about halfway through the right side.
There is one thing I will probably bring up, because there is still some debate going on about Serenity and Storm, Earth, and Fire. To be honest with you, in my opinion, both extremely good choices, but I would still opt for Serenity, one, because of the damage mod, and two, because of the fact that your chi consumers cool down 100% more quickly, which means you can just get out a heck of a lot of Rising Sun Kicks in your Serenity window. And with the tier set, like I said, buffing Rising Sun Kick damage after a fist and stuff like that, it's too good to pass up on. I think you'll notice most monks on the ladder are playing Serenity now 99% of the time. There are a few outliers, but like I said, it's a comfortable playstyle. Not a lot of people liked the Stormworth and Fire playstyle anyway, because we all know that pet AI in the game can sometimes be a little bit interesting, to say the least. And not just that, but for example, like if you play against a half decent Resto Druid and you've got Storm, Earth, and Fire on your go, you're just going to get mass rooted on your images, and then you're doing nothing. At least with Serenity, you know that you can follow through with the damage unless you get CC'd yourself. But pressing Serenity when you're susceptible to CC and having no trinket would be a mistake on your own part. Anyway.
You sound like you just watched my my solo queue VOD.
Hey, I mean, I made this mistake myself a few times. A few times I'm like, yep, can definitely get a kill here. Let's Serenity. Oh, I'm in a full cyclone. Rip, reclone, reclone again. Oh, my Serenity's gone. Right, time to run around the pillar for the next minute.
Wow. I'm wondering though, without the tier set, would Storm, Earth, and Wind and Fire be more beneficial? Like, it sounds like the reason why Serenity is really pushed ahead right now is just because of that tier set.
Yes, because of all the damage amps, Serenity just makes it that much better. And like I said, because of one of those damage amps being 30% on your Rising Sun Kick, and because, like I said, when you're in Serenity, your chi spenders cool down 100% more quickly. Just getting all those Rising Sun Kicks out just creates an obscene amount of pressure. It's way too good to pass up on. Once again, this is everything I'm saying. I just want to make a disclaimer: is based solely on my opinion and experiences myself from testing and trying, and even in Dragonflight beta, testing and trying all the different intricacies. Mm-hmm. And I could see that it was a huge outlier from the start. It's just so good. It really is so good.
So obviously then this is 10.5 or 10.0.5.
Yes.
10.0.7 is like, we're going to talk about it in the news here, but it's dropping very soon. Like it's next 2 weeks from now. It's next week. Holy moly.
Yeah, time flies.
So are there any changes, or is it still the same cookie cutter?
There are some changes for Windwalker. Now there's one which now, as you know, Skyreach, it causes you a dash. So you dash towards the target up to 10 yards, which, by the way, a lot of people don't understand. Like in Mugambala and on Blaze Edge, for example, if you jump and then Tiger Palm, you can get yourself back on top of a bridge without having to go up the ramps. I don't see a lot of people doing that kind of thing. But they're adding a different choice node for it, where Tiger Palm will no longer dash to the target. This, I wouldn't say, is so relevant in PvP because we want as much uptime as possible. However, in PvE, it's you should see the amount of monks that have been complaining about, pressing their Tiger Palm, going through a mechanic and just dying all the time. There are some other changes that I will list as well. You've also got Inner Peace's maximum energy bonus has been increased to 30, and it was 10. I still don't. I don't really find myself getting energy stuffed because, like I said, Monk is a very sort of controlled class. You set up your pace. You're not absolutely bashing the life out of all your buttons. You have to sort of think before you press, kind of play style is the way I describe it. I still wouldn't see this as being something I would take personally. There's too many other things in the nodes that I would want instead. Inner Peace also increases Tiger Palm damage by 10%. Tiger Palm damage is still kind of negligible anyway. Rising Sun Kick, unfortunately, is taking a small nerf. It's going down from the Rising Star talent, it's going down by 3% or 6%, depending on if you spend 1 or 2 points in it, and it was 5 or 10%. But it now increases Rising Sun Kick's critical strike damage by 6 or 12%. So that's pretty good. However, as I'm not going to jump ahead too much because we're talking about 10.0.7, the way they're changing crit in 10.1, I'm not sure how this is gonna work out. Feline Harmony's damage and healing bonus is increased to 10% and was 8. That's one of the things I told you about before that we take. So that's definitely a welcome change. That's a consistent damage increase in my opinion. So it's more towards a playstyle that I would like to see for Windwalker. And those are the 10.0.7 changes for Windwalker so far. There's nothing else to add there.
Okay. So some busted changes, not necessarily demanding a change in the talent build that we just talked about, if I understood that correctly, but just be aware that there's the way the damage is coming from is a little bit different, other than, like you said, the one change being that when you there's not that instant be able to reach out and get back to where you wanted to be because of the Skyreach Tiger Palm.
No, that's a choice node. That's mostly for PvEs. So on your Skyreach here, you'll still have Skyreach, or it'll be called Sky Touch. Sky Touch won't dash. Skyreach will continue the way it has been through Shadowlands with Keepers and is now. And on the PvP scene, which, like I said, is what we're talking about, I can't imagine anybody not wanting it because, like I said, I can literally jump up on Blade's Edge if I get knocked off or something, or if I'm quick with a knockback, I can just Tiger Palm straight back. It's incredibly good.
That's actually, I had no idea that it even existed. So
yeah, like I said, if you get knocked down on Blade's Edge, just jump up. If someone's standing sort of, towards the left or right side of the bridge, you can just Tiger Palm and get straight back up again. You don't need to worry about going around the ramps, or if you've forgotten where your port location is, or maybe you're outranged to your port, these little useful things to.
Yeah. Oh, he just went really quiet all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think Shael may have accidentally ported to a different location.
Yeah, away from his microphone. That's a.
Hold on, are we better now?
Yeah, there you're back.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I must have knocked it ever so slightly. Getting a bit too excited, talking about all the changes to come.
You Fist of Fury'd your microphone by accident.
I get a big old Rising Sun Kick across my room. The headset was gone.
Yeah,
but
sorry
about that, everybody.
That's all good. It's all good. That was funny. Sorry, you just made a really good, as a funny, but it actually brings up a really good point. How do you remember where you put your port? Like, do you do something like some mental math? Like, do you always put it in the same place? So you never forget it? Because
ever start of a game, in most maps you've got a staple place of where you usually put your port, but it's just constantly being aware of it and repositioning, because port, once again, I consider is one of the most underutilized things. Like it's just so good. But obviously, one of the intricacies is if you forget to reapply your port again, it will leave you in the place where you last used your port. If that makes sense, I'm not sure if I'm explaining this properly. So let's say I put it behind a pillar, and then I was, I wanted to avoid some huge incoming damage, and I ported behind the pillar. Well, then my port would go to originally where I was when I was taking that damage. So having to keep refreshing your port and keep on top of it is absolutely crucial.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of explains, because there's been some times where I'm like, why did the monk just port back to where they just were? Like,
Yeah, like I said,
or,
there's been a few times I've thought my port is in somewhere nice and safe, and I've just ported into death and destruction,
yeah,
and been
yeah,
very, very upset by it.
yeah.
And that
You
still
ported
happens to this
3
day.
feet.
I'm not going to pretend to be perfect. I still do it
Yeah,
frequently. I'm not
no
proud to
worries.
admit it.
There was somebody that happened on AWC. I remember watching that in a stream where like they were in the middle of the grand arena and the monk ported like 3 feet. I want to
Oh,
say it was, yeah.
oh,
It was.
I don't
You
know
felt
about
bad. You felt bad.
that. Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the keyboard went flying after that. So
Oh, I should imagine it would have been straight out the window. Toys
yeah,
out the pram for sure. But it does happen.
indeed. I think I, is there anything else about talents, or should we move into stats?
We can move into stats. Like I said, for talents, I can't see anything changing drastically. Certainly not in 10.0.7. I mean, like I said, if you were to go and check PvP, for example, right now and look at for monks, literally 99.9% are going to be playing the exact same build in 2s and 3s. Maybe not RBG, but certainly in solo shuffle as well. It's just too good. There's so much talent, energy, and damage amps that you can't really justify taking other things.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So going
Yeah.
into stats, obviously verse. So I'm saying for pretty much every class when it comes to PvP, verse will always be number one, mastery second, and then you followed by crit. Although that will still be the case because haste has pretty much got no benefit to us, especially with us going on to talents. One of the other Shadowlands legendaries was called Invoker's Delight, and basically that means when you use your Zuin, you got 33% haste. So therefore, we are really not that worried about haste whatsoever. In fact, I'll tell you how much haste I have. I have a whopping 2%. Um, I can see the stats being largely unchanged. Verse and Mast will always be by far the most beneficial.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
And in terms of the actual like soft and hard caps of those stats, I'm guessing the usual 30% in each, or as much of as possible.
Yeah,
Or
you want to get
anything
your
around.
versatility to 30%. I mean, if you can go slightly higher, even though the stats do have a diminishing return, versatility is still worth. You want your mastery, like I said, about 30% as well is pretty good. And like I said, crit certainly doesn't hurt whatsoever. Crit is definitely a fantastic stat, but where possible, verse mass in all scenarios.
That makes sense.
But
And then, oh, sorry, go on.
sorry, I was going to say I wouldn't say there's necessarily a soft cap to follow. I mean, if I could play with 35% verse, 38% verse, 40% verse, I still would.
Yeah. I mean, that
Especially
makes
with
sense.
monks being a bit squishy as well, the damage reduction side of verse is just absolutely insane for us because we are sort of glass cannons.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And then in terms of actual like racials, is there anything that you desperately need? I mean, I personally am a bit partial to a dwarf. So
Dwarf and Dark Iron Dwarf are so dominant right now, and it's literally not even close. In fact, I think if you look at the ladder, that's pretty much going to be the case for everything, especially with stuff like Feral and Asarogue performing so well. The racial's insane. Dark Iron Dwarf even more so because of the massive amount of agility you get, and then it's amplified by how many things you've removed. It's just a pure damage gain. But yeah, some people are playing regular dwarf too because of the physical damage reduction as well aspect of it, and the 2% critical strike damage increase is definitely a welcome for a class which crits big numbers anyway. Obviously, there are some monks which also do enjoy playing Night Elf. Shadow Meld is fantastic. You can still Shadow Meld certain CCs or like Chaos Bolts and stuff like that. But overall, in general, Dwarf is definitely what I would consider to be the smart play and the most efficient to use, and it saves your life so many times. Like I cannot describe to you how many times Stoneform or the Dark Iron version has pulled me out of some sticky situations.
that makes sense. That does make sense. I mean, I used to talk about dwarf all the time because even in other expansions like BFA, for example, with how a lot of these random PV trinkets worked, which would absolutely like, what was it called? I can't remember its name now, but the one that used to tick and used to do loads and loads. Obsidian Claw, that was it. Used to tick and do loads of damage to you. I used to play dwarf because as shamans you're slightly restricted, and on alliance there's not really much else I'd want to play. So I'd play dwarf because dwarf female is incredible, and it was just so useful. And I've always been saying, and I've always really played dwarf apart from when I had to go orc in Shadowlands. I always think that it's just so useful into a lot of classes, having the ability to just get rid of stuff, and especially nowadays like mind games and poisons and bleeds, you can really time it quite well to be very effective, with the drawback being that you can't drink for the next 30 seconds. So it's a very balanced ratio, in my opinion, that has so much use. And I think obviously, as a monk, you can probably get the most out of that.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, if you're going to play hordes, the no-brainer is still to go for orc. Orc will always still be by far the most valuable. You do see it, like I said, you do see others too, but orc is still definitely superior in my opinion. The stun reduction is way too welcomed. Blood Fury as well lines up perfectly well with your Serenity. It's extra damage increase that doesn't go to miss. And if you are playing Storm Earth and Fire, the pet damage increase does actually count towards your Storm Earth and Fire pets, which a lot of people don't know.
Very nice. And one of the things, of course, you're going to need to play some arena. I know constructed 3v3 arena is not too popular these days, but
Yes.
still has a place for many people. Are there any particular standout comps right now for Windwalker monks?
Yeah, for sure. Right now, I've really been enjoying Windwalker, DH, Resto Druids. DH basically fills in the gaps for that extra consistent damage, meaning that we can stay offensive, and of course, Walking Dead. It's played the same for a long time. The setups are still exactly the same. Those are absolutely my two go-to comps by far. But I assumed going into this expansion, Walking Dead was still going to be superior. But like I said, after playing DH Windwalker, it's really strong.
And I know 2v2 is kind of a weird bracket right now too, and the meta is pretty pretty figured out there. But I'm assuming are
Yeah.
your best comps maybe with the Resto Druid or Disc Priest?
Resto Druid Windwalker for me works absolutely phenomenally. For example, obviously you get a cyclone to cover my in-cap sweep go, and not just that, but at the end of a sweep, if you get your druid to put a vortex down as well, it just keeps that person there for extra uptime without allowing them to escape. It's absolutely insane. Like, it's absolutely insane.
And then you can obviously pick your comps in solo shuffle, but I can kind of intuitively guess that you probably don't want caster heavy lobbies too much. But is there like one type of lobby that Windwalker monks tend to excel at?
Um, So it's so hard when people talk about solo shuffle, because I've like turned up with, like, for example, DH Windwalker, Resto Druids, and it's gone absolutely horribly, and then all of a sudden I've had like a Fire Mage with me as a Windwalker, and it's gone absolutely fantastically. I mean, solo shuffle is just a world of its own. I mean, like I said, you can make everything work, but I look at it this way. I play around my team, as in I look at what they're doing and base my setup off of what they're doing at the time, rather than relying on them to cover my in-cap sweep go, for example, because realistically, even on the higher end, that's not likely to happen. So if you play around your teammates' strengths, you'll find solo shuffle a lot more successful. But I'm sure that applies to every single class in spec, to be honest with you.
And then, you've been saying in-cap sweep go, and I know that's part of your setup. And can you kind of like break down the key abilities used for Windwalkers when they want to set up a kill? Like, what are you looking out for? What specific abilities are you pressing?
Yes, one of the biggest changes, which, like I said, is where a lot of people go wrong, is people used to Rising Sun Kick before Fists. Now it's important to obviously get Max Chi. Then what I want to do is Phalanx Stomp, so I can get the extra damage on them. Then I will link up them into a sweep. And at that point, I'm going to Strike of a Windlord, into Fist of Fury, into a big Rising Sun Kick. Pray that I've got a Dance of GG proc, and that's going to be a lot of damage. At that point, that should 99% of the time, that's going to force major cooldowns. If not, yeah, and if they don't, it's going to be a kill. The Go is, like I said, it's extremely scripted. The only thing that's changed is now because of a tier set, Fist of Fury takes priority first over Rising Sun Kick.
And so the big, I guess the big thing people should probably look out for is the cooldown of leg sweep. That's kind of like the
Yeah, exactly.
That's the indication that things are about to get
Like I
scary.
said, the really, really good players, one of the things they'll notice as well is after the first go, they'll be monitoring their Sky Reach debuff on themselves, so they can see when their Sky Reach exhaustion is about to expire. That means the monk's probably going to be coming for a go again. Of course, that lines up with sweep, but these are the things to look out for, because, like I said, without having your 50% crit, it's actually reduced to 30% in PvP now. But even then, that's still an absolutely extortionate amount. That's the dangerous go, So yeah, tracking the cooldown, leg sweep, and making sure that if you've got no Sky Reach exhaustion on you, you're definitely looking at being the kill target.
Very nice. And then I guess, we have to ask you, what are the best ways to take down a Windwalker monk? Like
What are what are the best ways to take down a Windwalker monk? Well,
because you do have a lot of cooldowns, right? I mean, you have a
we
few.
do have a lot of cooldowns. Now we've
They're
got Damage
small,
Harm and
but they're
Diffuse as well. But unfortunately, Windwalkers die in a stun extremely easily. That's the best way. It's once again, it's kind of a race to get trinkets, really. At the end of the day, if I get caught in a stun without a trinket and my healer's in any form of CC whatsoever, there is a very good chance I'm going to die, which is why positioning is so important, especially when I've run out of defensives. I mean, unfortunately, Karma, like I said, is not most reliable defensive in the world. So so basically, if a Windwalker, get him in a decent stun, make sure their partner's in CC, and you're very likely to get a kill on them. They are pretty squishy.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with rogues. You just gotta manage to pin them down,
Yeah,
without a trinket. I mean, that seems to be the main theme of PvP. Get someone without a trinket, stun them, and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
how you take them down.
exactly. And like I said, the cross CC is also important too, because at the end of the day, if someone does stun me, but my healer's at CC, I'm still going to be just fine. Like, Madrid's just going to bark me, maybe send ward, keep a few hots to me. I'm going to be absolutely gravy. But if my
And
healer's CC'd and I find myself in a full kidney, I can usually just take my hands off my keyboard and accept that it's time to queue next game.
very nice.
Which is why I said,
And
for example, there's other things like I will always track like Rogue's kidney shot, for example. So if I can get a grapple weapon when I can see their kidneys just come off cooldown, I can save myself with that alone, for example. Because if I disarm them as they want to go for a kidney on me, I've ruined their go as well. So it's just about being aware. Same with, like I said, it's similar with all aspects of Arena. Being aware of exactly what's going on, monitoring your party's cooldowns, your enemy's cooldowns, and understanding if your positioning is good enough to be able to survive or not, and how you can counter the play that might come.
very nice. Garrison, did you want to say anything? I heard you talking just a second ago.
Yeah, no, I just had a snide comment. I was the moment's passed. It's all good.
Snide comment.
You're always welcome.
And
Yeah,
okay, so
incoming dad joke. That's all. It's
we always ask this question. It's a very ambitious question, but but yes, if you had all the resources in the world and could pull the strings at Blizzard to do something with World of Warcraft, anything you want, what would be that one thing? It doesn't have to be related to monks, but it certainly can be related to monks.
Well, one of the things they actually did do, I actually mentioned this just before you joined. Obviously, they've now added the community council feedback section. Well, maybe personally inviting some of the like AWC competitors or top PvPers or even content creators who produce sort of like high end content, skill cap guide writers, for example, and things like that, to discuss changes for PvP in the most unbiased possible way. Because we're all guilty of saying, our class is weak and every other class is so strong and so on and so forth. But just better communication between players and staff and understanding class balance properly. And I think it was Jake. You mentioned it before, didn't you? Like you said, small changes, small and frequent adjustments, which may not affect PvP. Sorry, PvE, but say damage is increased by 3% in PvP only, for example. A lot more micro adjustments like that would definitely fit for a more balanced game. That would, if I was pulling the strings at Blizzard, that's definitely something I'd go for. And I'd also buff Windwalker damage by 500%. But
No bias. No, absolutely no bias.
No bias whatsoever. I think that's absolutely reasonable. I want to be able to kill someone with just a tiger palm, you know?
I
I
got
guess
nothing on that. Why not? If you can do whatever you want, why not? Personally, I'd like them to bring back cancel rule. You know, to be able to
cancer roll. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
to be able to cancel the roll so you don't end up like
Yeah.
going past the team or wherever you want to go.
Yes. Oh, please. Please.
That's be the one.
Please.
Simple
Yeah,
change, but yeah.
that would be a welcome change as well.
Do you remember
All right.
when you had Chi Torpedo and it used to do a buttload of damage because you'd press the Chi Torpedo but you'd jump at the same time, so you actually just did the
Yeah,
Chi
just
Torpedo.
on the
And yeah,
spot. So yeah, and didn't move you. Yes, of course
yeah,
I do remember that, and I
that was
did
awesome.
enjoy. Yeah,
I love that. That was cool. I'll
yeah,
bring that back. Let's go.
that was very cool. That was very cool.
Is that your one
But
thing, Jake?
Yeah, I sort of interrupted everyone and kind of came in with my own one. But yeah, I like that. I think that did I play that in WoD? I think I must have done. I used to watch this person called Erisk play on YouTube, and they've been doing sort of one shot Windwalker one shots, like 2v1s, 1v3s, kind of for ages. And it was always amusing to watch that and watch the kind of way that Windwalker sort of changed over that time period and became what it's become. And obviously that was one of the things that I remember doing in Warlords, was just jumping
Yeah,
on the spot and doing Chi Torpedoes.
I remember that.
yeah, I mean, I would bring it back. I would definitely bring it back for sure. But unfortunately, I'm not pulling the strings at Blizzard, and that's probably a good thing as well. To be fair, because I would have no idea how to balance this game perfectly. I always think I know what I'm talking about, but I do feel sorry for him sometimes. Like I said, it must be hard to please everybody. In fact, it's difficult to please everybody. But so far Dragonflight's definitely looking promising. I am upset that, I've only seen Windwalker take more and more nerfs, but at the same point, unfortunately for all the Windwalkers out there that are gonna give me hate for this, they were deserved. We had a phenomenal start to the season, but we were absolutely obscene. We were just Strike of
Yeah,
Windlord alone, let alone Funfist, was literally just one-shotting people. It was absolutely crazy. So
but fun.
more than fun, more than fun. Like I said, bring it back. But
Nobody. I'll
but
say nobody likes losing. Let's just say that.
no, no, definitely no. Nobody lets loose, and definitely not. And it feels even worse when you go 100-0 in point
Yeah.
5 seconds. It's even more stressful. I should imagine there's been many broken keyboards at the start of this expansion.
Oh no, they could. Then they wouldn't be able to go onto Twitter and complain on Twitter. But Big, do you have anything you'd like to change?
I don't. I'm pretty content. I mean, I know people complain a lot about WoW these days, but I actually think WoW's in a really good place. I think Dragonflight's probably one of my favorite expansions I've ever played. I do think, though, I mean, I've said this a million times, but I do think that making an alt could be slightly better still, right? Like, because I just had this experience of leveling a priest and then trying to get into playing solo shuffle and then just not having tier set for 2 or 3 weeks, and that just felt really
Yeah.
bad. So I think like something still needs to kind of close the gap for alts because it is quite difficult. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to play a healer that my queue times are really short in solo shuffle. So
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's what I would do is have more people play solo shuffle so the queue times would be shorter. Speaking of which, it's a massive conspiracy how long DPS queue times are compared to healers. It doesn't make any
Oh,
sense to me.
it is
It it
crazy.
like I press join queue on my disc priest, I get a pop like usually within a minute, and then I play DPS. It's like at minimum, it's like 15 minutes. It doesn't make any sense. And that
I
of
don't
course
know.
gets worse.
I queued on my DH at 0 and I got in 5 minutes during prime time.
Oh, you're very lucky. Do you know the amount of times I've queued for solo shuffle? I've waited like 20 minutes for. Do you know what? I'm gonna run downstairs to the fridge, grab a drink, come up, and I've missed the queue, and I've just wanted to scream into a pillow. Like
Feel this.
it is leaps and bounds different to queuing as a healer.
I guess the one thing I would change is more incentives for people to play PvP. I think PvP itself is its own nice little contained system, but some way of getting more people to participate in arena, it would be my dream. I don't know how they would do that. I know those sort of things tend to get a little bit of pushback if you like say, oh, you have to play arena every week as a PV, or there's going to be some
Yeah.
backlash
Yeah.
from that. So there's got to be some way to properly
Mm.
incentivize people who've never played arena before to start playing arena.
I was going to say Shadowlands Season 1 all over again. The best PvE gear in the game was PvP gear.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we
you had
can't
a
we can't
massive
bring that back.
spike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people having 2, 3,
But
3 like Sire mythic quality weapons before people are even clearing heroic.
you're talking about trying to change people's like complete mentality. There's some people that just don't want to do the competitive stuff. Like they just want to play the game and have fun. Like they're not trying to push highest keys. They're not trying to get world first of anything. They just want to play the game. And the idea of going competitive and not knowing the dance, they don't know what the other classes' abilities are. They don't. So it's like sending an 8-year-old into the ring with Mike Tyson and tell them just put their hands up.
Well, I will say this because I had a conversation with Trill actually last expansion. It was for a video that I never made. It was kind of sad, but anyway. But one of the things he was talking about is like how for World Force rating, what they needed to do is get a lot of their people 2100 in PvP so they could get
Yep.
the upgraded weapons.
Yeah.
But what he said is like, a lot of these players in his guild could have gotten 2100 on their own. And I mean, I'm sure I'm not alone in this opinion, but I'm sure there's enough people who exclusively play Mythic Dungeons that would also be really good at PvP.
Oh
Right? I
yeah.
think there's a lot of skills that carry over. So
Yep.
if there could be some way to maybe incentivize the Mythic Dungeon crowd who's already, if you're playing Mythic Dungeons, you're probably a relatively competitive player, like especially if you're pushing like those higher keys, right? Like,
Yeah, for
and
sure. I mean, it's still a rating-based system, Anything like that with any sort of rating system does promote competitive atmosphere. And like you said,
yes,
some skills do definitely carry over. That's a very good point, and I don't think a lot of people recognize that for sure. But you do have to be very aware of your surroundings. You do have to be aware of interrupts, team communication. In fact, it almost gives me old school 5v5 vibes. Especially if you've got 5 of your mates, with you in Discord playing keys. It can be good fun. But no,
exactly.
incentivizing a way to incorporate both would definitely be a welcome change.
Yeah. I guess it's one thing to learn a few different mobs with what to interrupt, what to kill priorities repeatedly. And then you just run it back. Like if you die, you just run it back, whatever, right? Versus especially in arena deathmatch, like you're having to learn ultimately 36 other classes abilities, all that stuff, plus the interactions honestly, I think yes, there's transferable, but I think in the mindset though, and a lot of people I talk to, both in my guild and in game and outside of game about it, a lot of people are like, I don't like PvP, and immediately, like if there's any further conversation, it's all about, they don't enjoy that one on trying to interact against an enemy player, all those other abilities and basically what you're talking about is knowing your abilities, your players, your teammates' abilities, the enemy team's abilities, plus your positioning and the positioning of the enemy, and be able to figure out and trying to pre-guess what the enemy team is going to do next to try to kill you, and some people just don't like that. Actually, a lot of people don't like that.
If only there was a place to learn this. Let me think of
Oh
a
yeah, skill
website that I
cap.
could
If only
increase
there
my
was a place.
skill.
Should we plug our log on to skillcap.com, you go over to their pricing plans, hashtag technically PvP for our affiliate link, and get a discount on their membership.
There you go.
There you
Shameless.
go. Yeah, no shame. Let's get into the PvP news, though. Instead of talking about what should be happening, let's talk about what actually is happening.
All right. Who ordered up an extra large can of whoop ass?
All right. That was a bit. Let's get this party started here. So, Esports wise, the two MDIs have finished as far as the group content. So Group C finished on the 3rd to the 5th of March. Congrats to Monka and Thundered for taking those 2 spots to the grand finals. And the Last Stand finished last weekend. Much different style. It's not 1v1, but it's just continuous running of the same keys over the weekend to try to get the best times. Some absolutely crazy attempts made. Big congrats to Legendary and Cheese for taking those 2 spots to the grand finals. And as we mentioned before, those grand finals are going to be happening towards the end of the month here. Another big one, the community Posy Vibes. We had our friend Barndor here several episodes ago, came on talking about Posy Vibes. So they're still going. They're still hosting. They're still doing their Rated Battleground community stuff and helping viewers and all that. But they decided they were going to do a solo shuffle tournament. So they did a crowdfunded prize pool. Ended up over $4,000. Absolutely insane. Huge congratulations. Yeah, it was that was just from donos. That wasn't the subs and everything else that were people throwing around. It was absolutely crazy weekend for them. Huge congrats to the 2 streamers, Easy and JBZ. They did a phenomenal job. It was a really good tournament. A few hiccups here and there, but for the most part, a really good tournament. I'll say. Anyways, congrats to healers Cockweaver and Senior Vac for taking the 1st and 2nd on the healer side, and these names I'm sure people recognize, Ferrix and Magnus for taking the DPS winnings. So congratulations to them. Hot fixes. I can't remember if there's anything major for PvP. I don't know. Did you guys see anything for PvP on these things? I know there's a lot of Mythic Plus stuff.
I think there's some nerfs to like Disc Priest, Expiation.
That's right. Yes.
That's that, and then Disc Priest damage nerfs recently, and of course Rogue damage and Numbing Poison nerf, which I think was the right approach. I think they should have probably nerfed Numbing to begin with, because I think, I tweeted about this. I think one of the problems with nerfing Rogue is it's not very friendly for newer players. Compared to other melee, of course Rogue is really good, but the thing is you have to be very careful in how you nerf specs like this. And I think Numbing Poison was the correct approach, because it's something that affects high ratings and something that affects lower ratings too. So, but yeah.
How do you guys feel about the Breath of Fire nerf to Brewmaster? 35% nerf.
They buffed it. They nerfed it and then they buffed it. I'm pretty sure they nerfed Brewmaster, and let's see, when was this? They nerfed Brewmaster on the 27th of February, and then they reverted part of that nerf with this buff on March 6th. I don't know. I know there's that guy Bruisin, right?
I've seen him of a lot of Bruisin.
Who does really well, and he seems to be the only one doing exceptionally well on Brewmaster. So I don't know what to think of, like, who these changes are specifically for, because I don't know the tank meta at all in PvP, but apparently Brewmaster's pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely strong, but like yourself, I don't really follow the tank master in PvP too much. I've just seen Bruisin's name appearing on both a solo shuffle and 3v3 ladder as well. But in EU, he's doing pretty well. But like you said, he is definitely an outlier. He is one of very few, if any, really.
He's a bit crazy.
He's good at what he does.
Yes, he is.
Actually bumped into him trying out other tanks recently, and that was not fun.
Man, I want to get him on the show. No offense. I want to hear his thoughts on Brewmaster on the show.
Yeah, we don't want the Windwalker. We want the actual Giga Chad.
I love this conversation. Oh my gosh. That's not what I said, Jake. Why you gotta do that?
It's okay. I understand when I'm not wanted, boys.
That's not it. That's
Okay,
not it at all.
bring in the tank spec for PvP. That seems fine. Get rid of the DPS spec. You know.
Exactly.
Well, it's a great show,
While
folks.
we're at it, let's get a pro warrior on the show as well. Why not? You know.
Oh, hey, yeah. Maybe we'll get Swifty.
And his one-shot macros, he'll be able to tell you all about them.
Right? Yeah, see?
We'll get
That's how you
Swifty on to
bring it
talk
around.
about
Bring it around.
classic hardcore leveling. That's what we'll do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I wonder what that's going to be like, actually. All right, let's move this in. So 10.0.7 got announced, dropping on the 21st. Obviously, Major Paladin, Ret Paladin rework is going on. Death Knight rework happening. It's like Druids. It's just, yeah, a lot of changes happening across the board. Multiple classes. Aside from the stuff we talked about for Windwalker, which I totally appreciate, because I don't think we would have had time to go through all this. Anything that jumped out from these patch notes that are happening that really make you go, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna," I don't think somebody thought about this.
Well, Red Paladins are getting 2 charges of their wall. I know that, and I think they can now use it while stunned, which I don't know if they could before. Also, Wings is becoming a 60-second cooldown. And there was a redesign to some PvP talents for Red. I think Red is probably the biggest potential winner from the patch, but also like some other specs, like for instance, Resto Shamans, I believe, got some healing
Massive
buffs to specifically to healing Stream and healing Tide Totem. So that's going to be interesting. Druids, there's a redesign to the rest of Druid tree, which, depending on who you ask, was either the worst thing in the world or it's like whatever. I'm kind of on the field where the camp of just saying it's whatever. And then Warlocks got like every single Warlock spec got a buff to like their main damaging ability.
I know,
and
right?
it's because there's a lot of Warlock buffs, but and then some random stuff too, like Hunter, BM Hunter. They buffed BM Hunter, despite the fact that it's the best, like one of the
they
best, if not the best range class right now.
they buffed
Uh,
that to make up for the Razagath bow. Basically, they nerfed the Razagath bow, and
Yep.
to balance that, completely forgetting PvP here for once again, this is half the problem. Like I was talking about, they increased like kill command damage and stuff instead, but in PvP that's not a very welcome change because BM does a lot of damage, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, typically it's not uncommon, right, for them to literally shove in the PvP changes literally the day before the patch. So there might be more stuff coming.
Oh, yeah, there is. Yeah. I tweeted about that earlier. Sidu said something with, and Lika was responding. He's like, well, don't they usually, like, drop the patch, the PvP tuning, like, the Friday before? I'm like, dude, man, it's like they drop it on the hot fixes the day of the patch. It's,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're waiting in the winds to do it. I feel like for the devs on the PvP side, because the PvE change, I mean, they could change some of these stuff right at the very last minute. I feel like they just wait until it's all, once it's actually patched or solidified and this is what it's going to be, it's not going to change. Then they're like, okay, and this is how we're going to adjust it for PvP. Because, yeah. The only thing they have for Beastmaster is Piercing Fangs has 40% nerf in PvP combat, which I don't think is going to. I don't think it's going to meet the mark for counterbalancing the buff that they're getting. But I guess sorry, Jake. Anything jumped out to you?
Nothing crazy for me other than as we talked about. Honestly, it's I think it's just going to be a wait and see sort of situation for me. That's how I'm kind of taking it. I always take things a day at a time. Like I know that a lot of people go on and spend a lot of time on PTR and do that and then put out guides and all the things. But I've found everything seems to change just so rapidly from how it was in the beginning. Like, I mean, the beginning of Dragonflight completely and totally changed up on its head comparison to now.
Yeah.
So I for me, it's like I think we're going to wait and see. I think obviously there are somewhat things that people are concerned about, and there are things that people are interested in, and people are going to try it. I think there's going to be a lot of Ret Paladins, but I think you've just got to wait and see how it goes, and see what people discover as they are playing more and more.
Indeed.
It's so funny. Like as much as like we try to like predict the meta, right? All it takes is like some one dude like running some weird obscure build, and then, like everything is just like suddenly tipped on its
Changes.
head. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, okay, there we go. So yeah, I'm on
That's
the side of Jake here. I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like patch,
yeah.
cool. Like let's figure it out. Like when everything is live.
I will
I mean,
say.
that's a good.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna segue to the
Oh,
next point.
I was gonna say, if anyone wants for the PvP for the Ret Pally stuff, our friend Dr. Ownlord, he on Twitter he did a whole bunch of YouTube videos and tweeted them, doing different builds on the PvP dummies on the PTR. So showing what it looks like damage wise, at least on the dummy. So if you want to see those, he has multiple builds, kind of shows what the different ones do and not. So that's pretty good. By all means, segue away.
Yeah, so like I mean, one of the things that people have been up in arms about, depending on who you are, is the 10.1 changes to a lot of the CC durations, and
Yeah.
I think it's kind of. I mean, it's interesting. I think my take on it is people were saying that this is a change to get people interested in PvP, and I don't necessarily. That's. I don't think that these changes really motivate people to PvP or anything. I
No,
don't think that.
I'm full agreement with that statement.
And it's weird because like the long duration CCs were nerfed, like polymorph and blind and sap, but cyclone was unchanged. So cyclone technically got a buff because now it's not affected by the 15%. Some other things like cheap shot got a buff. Like I think the problem is in my view is there's a lot of like tiny little CCs in the game, and that's not something I think they can like take away. Like I think right now the game is too like the class design is too built around these small little micro CCs that I think this was kind of an attempt to try to deal with that, but I don't know if it's the best attempt. It's just kind of a weird thing to do. I
Mm-hmm.
know too it's coming with a crit modifier change, and healers, you know, are happy about that. But honestly, I think I like the pace of the game right now. I know some people think it's too fast, but to me it's just like I like these fast-paced games. I don't want another what like BFA season 4 or whatever where things are just
Oh,
exceptionally long and drawn out. Like I think the sweet spot for a game length is like somewhere around 3 to 5 minutes,
Yep.
and I worry that especially the crit change could bring game lengths to be quite long, but we'll just again, as Jake said, we'll just have to wait and see because I who knows.
I did like the fact that they decided they pointed out in some of the feedback that they are going to use the stamina bonus of the trinket, the 2 trinket bonus. They're going to use that to
Mhm.
help as a tuning knob as well, to adjust timing. So acknowledging some of these changes, acknowledging that the crit reduction from 175 to 150 will also slow some games down, like reducing some of the burst. But then they're going to use that stamina bonus to help also kind of find that sweet spot. So uh I think one thing which I can't remember if it was Naj. I think it was Naj that was pointing out the thought of getting rid of the 1/3 DR. What do you guys think of that?
Getting rid of it. I
Yeah.
thought Naj I know he suggested maybe increasing the length of DRs by like 2 seconds. Um,
No, so I think he was talking. There's a talk about so you have your first CC, and then your second CC is a half duration, and your third CC is at a third duration, or is it quarter?
as a
Maybe it's
quarter.
quarter. Okay, so quarter. Um, my bad on that. So I think he was talking about getting rid of that possibly, and just having your one and your half, or adding in the DR reset, increasing it from 18 seconds to 20 seconds.
I I think increasing the length of DR is the correct approach. The correct approach.
Okay.
Um, Ironically, that would be like a massive rogue buff because now like it'd be harder to even DR your kidney, right? Like if the DR is longer. But um, I don't know. I think from a healer perspective, it is kind of annoying getting CC'd like on these very rhythmic and predictable schedules. I think that's the problem with CC is like it just happens and there's in many cases nothing you can do about it. Uh, so having a longer DR might help just kind of let people play the game more, which I think is
Yeah.
the thought process behind this. Uh,
So what was
but
that, Shael?
I said, yeah, no, I completely agree. That's
I mean,
that probably is the thought process behind it, in allowing more uptime in the game rather than sitting in CC after CC after CC after CC.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
you guys don't like having a 12-second break from playing?
I mean, I don't mind stirring a cup of tea in between, but
well,
Okay.
Shael, you're a Wrath Lich King player, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, like I think a lot of these issues just boil down to the fact that dispel is an 8-second cooldown. Like, if healer dispels were spammable or had two
Yeah,
charges,
like they were in Wrath, just endlessly.
yeah, or if they had two
It,
charges, like I think they did in Kata. I don't remember when they.
it was Captivate changed it to an 8-second CD, wasn't it? And spell, if I'm
Yeah, and then
correct.
they.
Yeah, and Wrath
Yeah,
was
so
unspellable because I remember Paladins were Sacred Cleansing, just spam the spelling like heck. Rogues couldn't even get their poisons up, for example, and stuff like that, or Hunters couldn't get Serpent Sting, meaning that Chimera did nothing. Oh, those were the days.
because yeah, I think it'd be nice if healers just all had the priest purification PvP talent, where they just get that extra charge for a PvP
Yeah.
talent. I think that'd be one way to help with too much CC as well.
Fair, fair. Well, either way, I mean, obviously, all this stuff is in PTR. It's thought processes. People need to get onto the PTR and give it a try. Give their honest feedback back to the devs to let them know how it feels. It may not even come out this way. We'll have to see. But I do like the fact that the devs are putting a lot of thought and changes into PvP. Much different than what we've experienced in the last several X packs of a season done, and we're all they're obviously developing well into the next season, and we're eating the consequences of minor, if inconsequential, tuning changes. So, one other thing I want to point out: if anybody plays Wrath of the Lich King and has been doing PvP there, and noticed the huge number, it's actually it was a chronic problem of the Death Knight bots. What was ended up happening is there's been a huge number of bots where they come in, they make a DK, it goes through battlegrounds to level. They all have the same achievements for that. They all have the same weapon, which I think is made from blacksmithing, and they all run around and they just farm mats and farm gold, and they go into dungeons and run dungeons and do all that stuff, and then obviously that goes to gold sellers. So just got announced tonight, apparently Blizzard has banned 120,000 accounts, and yeah, and now they're changing it where an account has to have a minimum of, I want to say, a level 55, and in order to be able to make a Death Knight. So if I remember correctly, for Classic, they got rid of that. They just let anybody able to make a Death Knight because they wanted to get people in and let them play and whatnot. So you have to have at least a level 55 character on your account in order to be able to create any Death Knights on your account. So that should...
Well, there goes my income for the next 5 months. Jeez, thanks, Blizzard.
I knew it.
Yeah.
You're the person Minpoik has been complaining about.
Oh, I hate Minpoik, that bastard. He ruined took my job.
You guys are funny. And now we'll know if Big isn't able to play, and we see that on Twitter for the next 6 months. We'll know why. Anyways, on that, really though, I think this is a great change. I know that there's been a number of players that have been complaining about the amount of DKs on Wrath Classic. I suspect that there's probably more than 120,000 though, so we'll see. I think that's just the 120,000 that they found. But yeah, we'll see what happens. That's it for the news. Let's do the cooldown moment and then get the heck out of here. Right after there it is.
Got to be up in. Oh my god, 4 hours now.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's not, I've actually this has been an absolute pleasure, and I just want to say also thank you guys so much for having me on the show. I've actually really enjoyed it. I was very nervous beforehand, but this has been absolutely fantastic.
No problem. We're not scary. Only Big is scary, and he arrived a little bit later.
Only biggest scare. I remember some of Big's old YouTube videos from back in the day. We
There
won't
we go.
talk too much about that one, will we?
For legal reasons, we can't. No.
For legal reasons, we definitely can.
I'm actually surprised Big didn't self-promote some of his old videos to that Chris Kaliki tweet.
They were hilarious. I was
Yeah.
crying at some of your videos about certain people who we can't mention anymore.
That's awesome.
For good reason, yeah.
Yeah, for very good reasons, but honestly, very, very comical.
What happened on Elitist Jerks stays on Elitist Jerks. All right. A cooldown moment. Let's just talk about a cooldown that is in the game. So this one, shamanism. So I think it's really only for enhancements. It's the ability for, so, obviously heroism and bloodlust is not valid, or is not active in arena. So, but enhancement does have this PvP talent that allows them to basically hero themselves. So
it's a pseudo hero, isn't it? It's about 15% rather than 30. Is that right? Or am I
20% actually?
20%. 20%. Okay, my bad. Slightly off.
Slightly nerfed, but still impactful.
So still very, very, very good. Yeah. It's no joke. I mean, I remember in Wrath, Wizard Cleave, Destro Lock, Elemental Shaman, Holy Paladin. Whoa. With Bloodlust, I was scared. Dan scared Jebzig and all that. Ooh. Don't bring me back to the Cyclone Battle Group days. Please don't. I'm still PTSD from it.
I can tell. I'm kind of sorry.
Glyptic, the Elemental Shaman. These are all old names. I don't expect people to remember these names anymore. My God, these guys were on.
I don't right. Jake, did those names ring a bell?
Glyptic was the Shaman. He actually came, I think he won BlizzCon or came second. He played with. I don't know. He played with Rhino Hawk in Italy. Yeah.
See, I mean, this is before my time, so I don't know.
In Flame is the person I've still got contact with him in Nigams. Oh my God! Yeah, these people still play. Nigams is playing again, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah, Nigams the rest of the druids.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, right? I've played since vanilla.
Papercat, I still speak to Papercat as well. The Warrior, first ever BlizzCon champ.
Wow.
There you go.
So these boys are still about.
Well,
Flame is constantly on classic.
Let's talk about this PvP talent at least. So for obviously an enhancement shaman, if they pop this, they get a burst of speed. They get the 20% extra haste. That clearly impacts how a shaman is able to swing their weapons and do all their abilities and just try to obliterate somebody. I think that's pretty clear on how that helps the player. What I'm wondering is how do we play around it? Like, is this like, oh, they pop in heroism? What?
Run.
Just run?
Run. I mean, I'm a Windwalker, so I'm going to say that about pretty much anything anyway. I see a cooldown, I run for my life.
Well, can you touch a karma?
Can I? Well, touch a karma is not going to do anything about the heroism itself, but the damage coming in from it, yes, I can.
Okay.
So but I try to be very careful with my touch of karma.
Yeah.
I try to save its last resort. But like I said, a lot of the time nowadays, I use it offensively. So many people pump so much damage into karma, and it's a hell of a lot of damage.
Scary now.
Now that I've got Dampen Harm and Diffuse in my toolkit as well, I'm not so scared about being a little bit more creative with my karma usage. That's probably the right word to use.
That makes sense. So I'm wondering. So I guess, is this a wall? Is this a thing where if you see the enhancement shaman pop this, do you immediately wall, or let's say you can't run away? Is that a wall situation? Is it a CC situation? Is it a Jake? You're a shaman.
I am a shaman. Yeah.
If I can't run away, I would hope that I've got a port in a very good place. If not, then I'm not gonna have happy fun times, especially if I get like knocked down or something and caught in a bad position, then it's RIP to me.
Yikes. How about you as an Ellie shaman, Jake? Or
No, playing like Lust. I mean, first of all, wish I had it still.
Yeah, certainly.
Wish I still had it.
Oh,
Second of all, to be honest with you, I've played a lot of Enhance, and it's a neat little cooldown. I won't lie, being able to do it in the arena. I just feel like it's always in combination with your damage cooldowns. You know, as
yeah,
Enhance, like it's very
yeah,
scripted. So a lot of the time, you can be just taken out of the game for most of it. And I think it was scarier back in the day when, like for example, you had like wolves and you were sort of unCCable and the damage was coming and
yeah.
nothing could stop you. But nowadays you can just kind of get rooted. And if you don't have your root break, well, you kind of have to save it for that one moment. So it's kind of, you have to spend a lot of your mobility and a lot of your defensive toolkit in order to stay and have some uptime, because you can get just completely taken out. Obviously, you can use it on someone else, so it's not too much of a problem. Like there are scarier targets, like playing Turbo, and I think that's something that people have to think about. But
Yes,
as a cooldown, it's great. I mean, it was the one thing that made Shaman so unique. I think bring it back for all Shaman specs. One person, Bloodlust with you. I mean, the priests have
okay.
got PI. Why not?
Yeah.
same specs only. If we have BM hunters using bloodlust and stuff in the arena as well, it's not going to be so fun. Or now the evokers and things,
Yeah,
not.
just
But
Shamans.
for shamans, it's the original bloodlust. I definitely agree. It is a welcome change, and once again, it promotes more of a skill cap. People have to play around it and respect the cooldown.
100%.
Totally.
And I think just bring it back for Shamans in general, and that'd be good. I mean, we have. I mean, as I said, PI is already in the game, so why not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh.
absolutely. Well, yeah.
PI the enhancement shaman as he plus. Oh my god.
Yeah,
All
both.
right. I think I don't think there's much more to say about this one. I think it's pretty straightforward though. It's you respect it, you run away from it, or you try to mitigate it with another cooldown. Being a 1 minute cooldown, I'd say I think that I'm not sure if there's many classes that have a 1 minute CD defensive that would line up specifically exactly with that, or am I off? Maybe there's a few. Just off the top of my head, though, I'm trying to. I think DK.
Blur for the H as well.
Yeah,
It's
Blur.
about stuff I can think of.
Not many. Okay. All right. Well, that's it. Oh, that's about it, really. That's about that one. Shout outs. We're going to go for you first, Shael. Any shout outs you would like to give?
Yeah, basically, I'd like to shout out to every arena partner I ever played with, and all people that supported me and stuck by me even through all my bad times. I've played with the same partners for a long time, and I'm very grateful for them. A shout out to all my friends that are going to be listening to the podcast at the end of this, because they all knew I was a little bit nervous before coming on. And a shout out to you guys for one, having me, and two, promoting such a professional podcast. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I'm so glad to see that there's community things like this going on. I think the game needs more of it.
Well, thanks, man.
That's awesome.
Right. Phil.
Don't cry, man. You're gonna make me cry.
Yeah,
Filled
but
with
it's
love.
true. Like,
Yeah.
like this is what the game's
Yeah.
about, community spirit, and it's the amount of effort you guys put in. It's phenomenal. Like I said, I was just supposed to listen to Born Goods podcast with you, and I ended up getting addicted, and now it's become a bit of a routine. And I've sat through quite a few episodes now, so it's brilliant. So well done to you guys, honestly, well done. I'm
Thank
very
you.
proud to be a part of it.
Happy that you were here. Happy you're part of it too. I don't really respond well to compliments. I guess.
You don't have to say anything, but you asked for a shout out, you got your shout out.
Thank you. Big. Who do you want to shout out?
Shout out to the devs for doing crazy stuff this expansion. I mean, this has been again so many changes, and there's that cool little Ian has a Costas interview this morning, which was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I
so
forgot to
yeah,
talk
shout
about
out. Yeah, we maybe we could do that next time.
that. Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to the devs.
Yeah, it's definitely a good shout out to you, to be fair. I mean, they've been working really hard, and after after how Shadowlands went and all the conspiracies and God knows what else, they've really pulled it out. Dragonflight, it's like you said before, this is probably one of my favorite expansions so far, and they're definitely heading in the right direction. Fair play to the Craft Dev team; they're doing really well.
Totally. Jake.
Oh, I was actually trying to think who to shout out, but I think I'm gonna shout out the listeners, the listeners of the podcast. Those everyone that comes back and listens to us every couple of weeks, and those who listen back to everything else, like Shael, actually going back and getting addicted. Big thanks to supporting us and just keeping us sort of grounded and throwing in loads of ideas. I think it's awesome. Really appreciate it.
Don't disagree. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Mortai, Overlord Moon, and Nonix for getting together and helping us. We played in the AWC there, and we all got our banner from doing that, which was absolutely awesome. And just a quick shout out to them for being willing to participate and join me in that, and the whole process. Mortai, no, we didn't win. We won the banner. Let's be honest. But if you guys want, he actually recorded the whole thing. He recorded it all and then made a YouTube video. So if you want, head over to Mortai's YouTube channel. I think he dropped it into the Discord in the content creation section. Oh yeah, so we have a community place where people could just put any content that they made into there. So if you want to go over there, take a look at the video. It's don't laugh too hard at my gameplay, but yeah, it was fun. Shout out to those guys. Last but not least, over to, I guess, Shael. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
I have a Twitch. It's Shael WOTLK, so Shael Rafa Lich King, and my Twitter, which is Claywin TV. Apart from that, you can find me in game, and that's pretty much it, really. Yeah, try to keep it incognito. I do intend to make a YouTube channel, but I've been saying that for about 6 years now, so don't rely on that anytime soon.
If we're looking for you in game, where about are you sitting in Valdrakken? Are you doing laps in Dalaran? Or are you just outside in Goldshire?
Am I sitting? I'm not one of those. You won't find me on Argent Dawn. Don't worry about it. But if you want to find me, you can find me in game. I mean, I'm usually playing keys mostly nowadays. I'm obviously still PvPing, but yeah, that's about it really.
All right.
Mean, I can leave my battle tag if anybody ever wants to do something and play. Then the option's always there.
Can't believe you do Argent Dawn like that.
Shout
out to my Argent Dawn homies.
Hey, there's some good players in Argent Dawn. I used to play with a hunter there called Hidden Stalk. Him and Zonica went to regionals in Legion.
Wow.
There we go, then.
That's awesome.
Our first seeding was against Maro's team. We did Durance, but it was still good. It was still good. Still good experience. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, you got that must have been a pretty good seeding. I guess Big. How about you kick off the end of this? Can you tell everybody where they can find us?
Yes, I can. You can contact us directly with a tweet to @technically_PvP or by an email to technicallypvp@gmail.com. You can also join our discussions on the Bonus Roll Productions Discord.
Also, you can visit the Bonus Roll website to find the podcast directory with us and many other great shows at www.bonusroll.gg. Got there. This directory also has a review system, so head over there and tell everyone what you think of your favorite shows, including our own.
Indeed. And just one last reminder, send an email to technicallypvp@gmail.com with subject line giveaway to get your name put in for that mount. Otherwise, links for everything we talked about going to be in the show notes, and we'll talk with you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much for having me once again. I really appreciate it.
No stress.
It's been a pleasure. Okay, guys.